Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of No Excuses with Chris G. I'm your host, Chris George, co founder and chairman of SUBTA. Today, we are going to be doing a Ask Me Anything. And we've done this in the past. This works out really well. Our team went out there and they looked in our different Facebook groups and our Slack channels and saw people that had submitted questions that I'll be able to answer. These are questions that may be things that you would have liked to have asked me or have thought of about for your business. Here's a chance for me to look at some of those great questions and give you my insights and strategies regarding them. And if you have something that pops up, a question that pops up while you're watching the episode, please feel free to drop that question in the comments and I will try to get to it. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it with the first question that had come in one of our Facebook groups. And that first question was, what are different strategies to deploy in an effort to retain your subscribers for longer? So what I love about this question is it's focused on retention, right? And I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of subscription companies are doing is they've got all this focus on acquisition and they're not focusing on retaining the customer. The retention department should be just as big as the acquisition department. And one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is having proactive retention. And what I mean by that is looking at indicators that might tell you when somebody is going to potentially cancel. The common answer and the obvious answer is enhance the customer experience, stay engaged with the consumer. That's going to help retain customers. But what I love the most is a strategy to get in front of a customer before they potentially go to cancel. And what that is identifying when there might be a problem and then addressing it before they go to cancel. One of the easiest ways to do that is to survey your customers monthly. And if you're a subscription box or have some sort of service, sending them a survey, asking them to rate that month's box or rate the service that month. Based on what the consumer selects should be a trigger to your team in regards to reaching out to somebody that might not be happy. I've talked about this in the past, and I'm going to say it again because I love this strategy. But when I send out the survey, I like to have three emojis on there. One's a happy face, one's an average face, like the straight line, and one's a sad face. If anybody clicks the average face or the sad face, it immediately triggers a notification to your customer service team. We want to find out why they selected one of those. Have the customer service reach out, say, hey, we're so sorry to see that you weren't happy with this month's box. How can we help make this experience better for you? This is allowing you to get ahead of the curve. On top of that, those that select the smiley face, those that are happy with service or product, you want to use that to your advantage to let the world know that they were happy, right? So if somebody clicks the smiley face, they take the survey, it immediately takes them over to a Facebook post or takes them to a review page for them to leave a review, a public review of your product to your website and or on social media. You're taking full advantage of those that love the product and having them promote your product. And the other side, you're taking the people that weren't as happy, were either sad or had an average experience, and you're addressing that experience to get in front of them, make good with them, and make it so that you can retain that consumer, and then at the end of the day, you're helping retain the customer for a longer time. That's the best strategy that I put in place for retaining customers for longer. Next question we have, and this was from our Subscriptionpreneurs Facebook group. So if you're not in that group, you should definitely check it out. Lots of great networking that's going on in there. Lots of good engagement with our members. They said, what's good ROI per box after all expenses related to each box, product, packaging, shipping, trying to figure out pricing, and currently it's about $13. So, ideally a really good healthy subscription is at like a 40 to 50% margin. So if they're selling if their subscription's $30 a month, you don't want to spend more than $15 to $18 shipped with the products in there and shipped to the consumer. Ideally, if you're starting out, so those of you that might be watching that are early stage, your margin is going to be less, right? You might be at a 20, 25% margin. What's going to happen is over time, that number is going to scale. You're going to buy more boxes or more materials. As you buy things at scale, the price gets reduced. As you start shipping more at scale, the price gets reduced. The products that go into the box, you start buying those at scale, the price gets reduced. So, really good rule of thumb is about 40 to 50%. I remember with our brand, the gentleman's box, we were at like a 15% margin in the beginning, and then it went all the way down to the point where we were at like 55%. So over time, that'll grow, but keeping it that 40 to 50% is a really good point and builds in enough profit for you to grow the business. Third question we got, again, was from our Facebook group. It says, what do you do when the tracking status for a box shows it was delivered, but not to the correct address? What are next steps? Do you send the customer another box? So this happened to all of us, and it'll happen multiple times. Now, in this question, they're saying, what do you do when the tracking status for the box shows it was delivered? So the customer is saying they didn't get it. If the shipping company delivered to the wrong address, the shipping company would handle the situation, and you would ship the customer another one. But if the right address was there, the consumer says I didn't get it, but it shows delivered. This is going to happen again multiple times. The truth is, the first step we do is say, hey, could you check with anybody else in the home to see if they'd gotten the package, or potentially check with one of your neighbors? That's step one. Step two is, depending on who's doing your final mile delivery, in a lot of cases like USPS, we ask them if the package there. Things like this happen. In general, the shipping providers are really good and they get the products to your door, but there are cases where products get lost or packages get lost or get delivered to the neighbors. First thing we do is ask them to check those outlets first. And if the customer still says I don't have it, then my recommendation is you do send them another box. Now, what you just have to be careful of is anybody that's sort of taking advantage of that system. So if you start to notice that there's a pattern, that somebody every couple months says they didn't get it and it's the same person, well, then we know we've got a problem. We either add signature to delivery with that consumer, or we don't ship to that consumer anymore. I try to avoid that scenario where you tell a customer that they no longer can be a member. But if somebody's taking advantage of your system and trying to get free product from you, then they shouldn't be a member at all. But that's the steps I would take first, and just track for anybody that's sort of taking advantage of those situations. Most people don't, but the scenario does happen. And unfortunately, if the package gets lost but it shows delivered, you file a claim with post office or FedEx or UPS, whoever may be shipping with you, and reship the customer a new box. Now we're on the fourth question that's come up, and this is a question where I'm going to be able to give a little bit, back into the experience of me having a subscription box. So the question is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give someone who's starting out a subscription box service? I think this is a great question. I think probably now it's been harder to start a subscription versus, let's say, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. One being that there are so many now, which is great. But just because a subscription box is already out there doesn't mean you still can't build your own. The greatest piece of advice I could give is, I'm going to give it in two parts. I think that building a subscription around a replenishable product is always great. I love those models where it's depleting, like Dollar Shave Club, right? The razor gets dull, they need a new razor. It might be it's a subscription where by the end of 30 days or end of the quarter, the customer will need more of that item. It's depleting. The customer is building a lifestyle around your product being in their life. They need to get this every month to take care of whatever need that product might take care of. On the subscription box space, when I'm thinking more curated products, so where there's a discover delight element around it, I'm a big proponent. So if I were to start off now, I would probably be building a subscription around a quarterly subscription. I love the quarterly subscription model. I would have loved to have started Gentleman's Box that way. We started monthly, then pivoted to quarterly. With Discover Delight, and you can see a lot of the really good brands like FabFitFun. They're one of the leaders in the space. They're a quarterly subscription. They do very, very well. I think with quarterly subscriptions, you avoid customers getting too much product, so they don't have the product fatigue. It also allows you to charge a higher price point and put higher quality items in there. Having a higher price point also leads to you getting a higher quality consumer, one with more discretionary income. So if I was starting on a new subscription box business, I would probably build a quarterly model, and I would put it at a higher price point and have higher quality items in there. Build an amazing customer experience, identify a way to engage with the customer throughout that quarter. And also, not for anything, building out 4 boxes a year is much easier than building out 12. And on top of that, you've got 3 months to sell out. When you've got a monthly subscription box, you're like every single month, you're left over with some inventory. You're consistently trying to curate a box and get ahead of the curve. It's a lot harder. And a quarterly subscription allows you to really take your time, build an amazing box, ship it to them quarterly, give you 3 months to sell out, and build an amazing experience for the consumer. By the way, any questions that come in on any of the things I've already stated, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll make sure they get up on the screen. Last question we've got here is, how do we cut cost on shipping? Right now, we're printing labels and shipping boxes for our own warehouse for $9 to $10 a label. Would using a distribution company lower cost significantly? We're doing about $250K a year in shipping. So, looking at what you've just sent me, that means you're probably shipping anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 packages per month. One thing to keep in mind with shipping is, again, as you scale, that number should get lower. Ways to reduce on shipping are, one, can you build a box that weighs less? Can you build a box that's smaller? Sometimes what you have to do is sort of put a policy around your subscription, meaning we can never be way more than 3 pounds. I don't care what wants to go in there. The policy is 3 pounds is the limit, or it's 2 pounds, or it's 1 pound, or it's 4 pounds. Maybe there's a way. If your subscription right now, some months is 1 pound, some months is 1.5, some months is 3, some months is 4. Can you sort of identify a weight that can fit that model, and you can build an amazing box around it? Working with the distribution center could cut costs significantly. They're shipping out hundreds of thousands of boxes a month, so therefore they're probably getting a better shipping rate than you are. You might actually identify that they can actually fulfill and ship your product cheaper than you just shipping it. So now you've eliminated the whole fulfillment part out of your business, which allows you to focus on really growing your business, focus on acquisition, focus on the customer experience, focus on retention. I think also too, just shopping around. There's multiple suppliers for shipping. And of course, if you're at SubSummit, you're going to see them all there. But really start to talk to a lot of them and negotiate with them. There are several shipping providers, several last mile providers that you should reach out to. And if you reach out to SUBTA and you're a premium member, we can help do some of those introductions for you. And again, like I said, if you're at SubSummit, they're going to be all there in the exhibit hall. That gives you a really good opportunity to talk to every one of them, show them what you're shipping, how many you're shipping a month, and try to negotiate a really good deal. And on top of that, the fulfillment centers are going to be there as well. But talking to fulfillment centers, like I said, they're shipping in high volume. They're more than likely getting a better rate than you are. And they might be able to fulfill and ship your product for cheaper than you are shipping it. I would take your current shipping cost, add in your current fulfillment cost, get that total, and see if you can get that over to a fulfillment center potentially to handle that for you and save you significant dollars, not just on the COGS, but allow you to focus on things that are really, really well. Fulfillment's a thing that is a really good part of this industry that you can outsource that can really be a big benefit to your business. So I encourage you to really check with a lot of these fulfillment centers and shipping providers and see if you can negotiate a really good price and move that operation to that potentially. Not sure if any questions come in. Bradley, did any questions drop in? Comments? No? For those of you that are watching, if you watch this later on, because I know this is recorded, and a question pops up, feel free to still drop it in the comments. I can either address it on my next AMA, or I'll try to chime in there and comment and give you a really good response. I want to thank all of you for watching. Quick reminder, Cube Awards nominations are open. So if you're in the space, make sure you go and apply for the 2022 SubSummit Cube Awards. They're going to be live June 2nd in Orlando, Florida. It is the biggest event in direct-to-consumer subscriptions. It's an amazing part of the conference. It's the most attended part of the conference. Really good party as well afterwards. So please make sure you nominate your brand so we can get you up there for one of the Cube Award nominations. And I hope to see all of you live in Orlando for the Cube Awards and at the event. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing week.